allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
The next item is the approval of the minutes from the September meeting. Are there any additions or changes, corrections?
None.
Yeah, I would move to approve them.
Second them?
It's been moved and seconded. We approve the meetings of the September 27th meeting. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Same sign, nay, same sign. Opposed, same sign. Sorry. Motion passes. The next item on the agenda is citizen comments. This is for items that are not on the agenda this evening. Are there any comments from any of the citizens? Seeing none. The next item is for the Carroll Frederick County planners. Carroll County has asked that their planners are not coming out to the meetings. They're sending out notes. So I will read from our technician, Hannah Weber, who's our representative for Carroll County. Below are the updates for the county for your planning commission meeting. Number one, residential text amendment was transmitted to the VCC in September. Work sessions with the county commissioners will begin on October the 28th. Information can be found at www.carrollrezoning.org. Number two, agricultural and conservation zoning text amendment is the next step in the countrywide comprehensive rezoning process. Staff is working on changes to the agriculture and conservation zoning districts with the assistance of a work group. That information can also be found at www.carrollrezoning.org. Number three, the triennial update to the 2019 Water and Sewer Master Plan. They're meeting with the county and town staff on October the 28th. Number four, the Transportation Master Plan. A second survey is being crafted and a meeting with town staff is set for November. And I don't know if any of you have seen, I know that I have received an email about this survey and to take the transportation survey. It's very important if you get an email about this transportation survey to please take it. So it helps them in making decisions for our transportation. Next, I see our Frederick County planner, Tim Goodfellow. Welcome. It's good to see you. Glad you're here.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Good evening, Planning Commission members. I just have two items to update you on this evening. One is just kind of an FYI. In the county's legislative package that we send to the General Assembly each year, the county did include a position statement supporting the legislation to grant urban renewal authority to the town. So I just wanted to let you know that. That's in the packaged in the report. You may have already been aware of that. The other thing that we're working on two comprehensive plans right now. One is the South Frederick Corridors Plan, which is essentially a redevelopment plan for the general area around 355 and Route 85, just south of the city of Frederick. Other colleagues are working on that. That plan has not yet been released, but what I'm working on is the Sugarloaf Treasured Landscape Management Plan. This draft plan was released in July of this year, and our Planning Commission is well underway with its workshops. So if you'd like for the November meeting, I will come back with a more detailed update and review of other development activities, other county initiatives. And if you'd like, I could give you a briefing on the Sugarloaf plan, if you'd like to hear that.
Great. Okay, any questions, concerns?
Along with those updates, can you give us, for the next 12 to 24 months, best that you can estimate it, a projection of growth and development in the immediate Mount Airy area, Frederick County side?
Yep, we'll do. Can definitely do that.
You'll do that and bring it back in November?
Yes.
Okay, awesome. And then you also said we would appreciate it if you're not going to be here to send a memorandum or a note, that would be awesome. And I appreciate if you would do that, that'd be
Sure.
great. Okay, thank you for
Okay,
coming and drive careful on the
Yes.
way home.
I will. Thanks, Tim.
Oars. Next item for discussion is a site plan for AP 20-0079, the Twin Ridge Professional Park, Lot 7A, which is located between Rising Ridge Road and Park Ridge Drive. We want the consolidation of Lot 7 and Lot 8. Is there anyone here to speak for or John, are you going to give us?
Ron Thompson is here. He
Okay.
is the engineer of record, so if he could come up to the table. This is an amended plat that's looking to consolidate Lot 8 and Lot 7 into Lot 7A, creating a 5.78 acre parcel that's currently zoned industrial. It's a flex use, excuse me. And the proposal is for a multi-building mini storage structures that'll be located on that property. And Mr. Thompson can answer any questions you might have related to that. And again, this is for the amended plat, not the site plan for the parcel,
Okay,
just the consolidation of the two lots.
Both plats are owned by the same entity.
It's a property owned by LDG.
And there's buildings on both. They're not, but they don't,
They are vacant parcels at this point in time. The proposal is to establish a self-storage, multi-building facility on the lots.
is this, okay, so this is a final plan, so a revised plat, so the water is there. I mean, the water,
Well,
do
there
they have?
existing lot of records, yeah, so there's water allocation on site. Of course, he'd have to go through that allocation at the site plan approval process. So this is just amending the plat. The two plats that are currently recorded, combining them into one plat, into Lot 7A.
Okay. Any other questions?
will there be any change in the operation of the properties or versus how they're used now?
The current properties are vacant. The park is flex industrial. So,
I thought there was something there, maybe I'm.
no, as you're going up, forget which road, Parkside or whatever, there's a large area of grass there,
Okay. Yeah.
just before you get to the town, or the residential development, single-family homes.
Okay.
It's right over the railroad tracks,
Right after,
on the left, a nice flat level. I was hoping the town was going to get that for a park, but obviously not.
oh, you can buy it. You seem to be delayed on the
Yes, ma'am,
concept.
will you please come to the podium, state your name and your address? I'm sorry, we have to do this for the record. Okay. I know, it's kind of a, yes.
Hi, my name is Kathy Daniels. I live on Park Ridge,
Okay,
and I guess I have lots of questions because this is something that I drive on my street every day, and we just saw that sign for zoning on Sunday. If it was there before there, I would be surprised because I drive that street every day.
It was put out on Monday.
Okay, it was put out on Sunday?
Monday.
Right, it was put out, well, today's Monday. Last Monday, you're
Last
saying?
Monday, yes, ma'am.
Not that hard to believe, but anyway.
I can,
Anyway, so my question is, this obviously hasn't been approved by anybody to build this facility yet? Is that correct?
we haven't gotten that far yet. We're
Okay.
just approving
We're not,
The-
we're discussing.
we were discussing, I'm sorry, we're discussing the consolidation of Lot 7 and 8. Nothing, no site plans or anything have been brought. This is the first step.
Okay, so, I mean, what is as citizens of that community, what are we able to approve or not approve in this process? Because obviously, that is just right around the corner from my house. it's not a flat lot, it's flat and then it goes up. So I'm assuming that that would all have to be dug out because those two plots, I'm assuming, are not at the same elevation. That would all be dug out, and how big would this facility be? How much traffic is going to be brought in because of that? I mean, those are all concerns, and I'm
Correct.
sure the other people here who
And
are
those
from our
concerns
neighborhood.
are answered. I know
So-
this is hard to understand, but those questions are answered as we get further into the process.
Okay.
But as far, your question as what can we do as citizens to approve or not approve?
Right.
You can state your concerns, which you have done here. There will also be a public hearing at the town council.
Okay.
And you can also go to that and state your concerns again.
Okay.
These,
Madam Chair, if I may, the only action on the piece of property is if the Planning Commission approves the consolidation of the two parcels, it's complete here at the Planning Commission. The
okay,
next step, although the concept plan is ready to come before the Planning Commission, it's up to the town staff to allow it to be here, will be that it will be presented at the concept design stage. At that point, you see the layout of the entire facility. Again, self-storage.
Right.
In which then during the time of the Planning Commission, you would then be able to ask questions
Right.
of that plan.
So my question would be then regarding just this, consolidating the two plots, what would cause you to not want to consolidate them?
Can I rephrase that question?
Yep, sure.
What's the difference, might be a different question, but what's the difference for your client in terms of if it is consolidated as opposed to if it's not consolidated? What can you do or not do in those situations?
Well, we have spent a great deal of time working our way through the design for consolidating. It does eliminate an internal building restriction line between lots 7 and 8. So at this point, we received concept stormwater management approval, which is basically about 85 to 90% design complete. And we have concept landscape approval and other agencies with minor comments to allow it to move forward. If tonight's action would be to allow the plat to be consolidated. The owner will wait to consolidate the plat until he has a approved by the Planning Commission concept site plan. It's at that point that the plat is then recorded, consolidating the two parcels, and generally, the condition is that the parcels must be consolidated and recorded as one lot before a final site plan could be considered by the Planning Commission.
So if the two plats are not consolidated, doesn't mean that the design would not go forward.
It would just be different.
It would just be different. Is that true?
Right.
We don't know if we would proceed at that point.
Okay,
Economically, it may not make
okay,
sense for the developer to proceed
Okay.
if they're not consolidated. It's a different marketplace than what it was in
Right.
terms of costs and
Now you're answering my question.
right. So are we allowed to say our preference of, yes, I would not want those two plats to be consolidated?
You can,
may,
you just,
preference.
you can, you just did.
Okay, great.
But you have to remember that from this side of the table, if there's something wrong with consolidating them, then you would say, hey, there's a problem. Not consolidating them to prevent a structure from trying to be built is not a good reason to not consolidate them. So,
For you, but
right,
for me,
but-
I see in a different light.
Exactly.
Being on that street, so.
right, but we have to look at both sides
Right.
from the owner. Remember, there's somebody who owns that
I
land too.
understand.
Trying to consolidate and put something there.
Well, and I'm just saying that's our preference.
Yeah, I mean, the good news is you haven't missed anything in this process. You're
Right.
literally at the front of the line right now.
Okay.
But I would urge you to stay plugged into it.
Absolutely.
Because it's going to move as it goes. And if you don't come to any more meetings or don't follow the town page,
Okay,
it will happen and you will not know what is happening.
exactly. All
So
right,
you have
I
to stay
appreciate
plugged
that.
in. But you have not missed anything yet.
I appreciate that. All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for coming.
Yes, ma'am?
Hi, everyone. My name is Kira Kovalova, and I'm a new resident of Twin Ridge Development, so I'm very happy that I am as well plugged into this.
Your address?
1002 Park Ridge Drive.
Okay.
So thank you for the discussion. This has been very useful. So as far as I understand, the current owner already runs some commercial activity there.
There's nothing, these are vacant lots.
Okay, so I guess my question was, what is the town of Mount Airy gaining by this new mini storage? And then that means that we're turning vacant lots into a new business? Is that what you're saying? What is there right now?
There's nothing there right now. The lots are vacant. For Mount Airy, we are trying to, in our master plan of 2013, have made it a point to address and take notice of all the infill properties that are vacant. This is one of them. They have come to ask for our recommendation. If their business is there, there will be taxes that will be coming to the town of Mount Airy, which is a good thing for residents and commercial people both. That business taxes keep your taxes down.
Yeah, so, okay, in that case, I just wanted to voice my concern. I'm primarily concerned about two things. In terms of developing those lots, how much disturbance will be to the residents of Park Ridge Drive, and what will be the traffic flow for the incoming and outcoming users of the mini storage facility.
The disturbance I can't answer because, that's different as far as the traffic flow. That comes
Yes.
at a later
So I just wanted to
stage.
voice it as why I'm
appreciate
interested
that.
in following this
Okay.
process.
If
Thank
it's
you.
any reference, there's a self-storage over by Century Ford, and I pass it a lot.
Me
and-
too, every day.
And you notice there's not a traffic problem back there. You see, the most I've ever seen backed up is like two cars trying to type in the code to get into it at once, maybe.
Yeah, but also the kind of type of traffic there is a little bit different. I mean, I think there is a smaller townhouse community there than the Park Ridge Drive, and everything that comes at a traffic light on 144 gets sometimes busy. But thank you for answering my question.
Thank you for coming forward.
Go ahead.
Hello, Lee Daniels, 1014 Park Ridge Drive. A couple of points. One is the current owner does have buildings right adjacent to that empty lot. So while it is empty, there is there are buildings right there that would be tied into, I'm assuming. As far as the traffic, ingress and egress, and I understand taxes clearly, but also as taxpayers, we have also the impact of potentially these rental units lowering our house values. Right? Which also impacts the tax base.
Exactly. But do you have empirical evidence that that will happen?
I don't at this point.
Okay. I can't,
But
I don't
is that
think it
part of
would-
their I know they're probably not to that point, but also have they done any kind of market research on traffic impact, on house value impact for Twin Ridge? Well, also, you'd probably need to put in a new traffic light, because there is no light on Park Ridge Drive onto 144. So what'd be the cost for that? Or is that,
If I may, those
ahead.
issues will get addressed at the concept plan. I can tell you that this is a high-end Cube Smart self-storage proposal on the concept, so that it isn't the traditional tin buildings throughout the site.
Pretty nice.
The primary access is Rising Ridge Road. The peak hour traffic is minimal because it is a self-storage facility there. And as you note, To the north of it, there are two parcels that are independently owned by other industrial park clients that do business within the industrial park. So these are probably, well, there are basically about 4 or 5 lots left within the subdivision that was approved back in 99 or 90 or something to allow for the development. But again, as the chair has pointed out, it would be more appropriate when the concept plan is presented to the Planning Commission and those drawings can be seen by the public.
Understood.
Ask your questions there so that we can answer them, so that I can answer them adequately.
Right, and Mr. Thompson is taking note of this, and he'll make sure that you see that, but you, like the accounts, Commission Scott said, you have to keep track of what's happening, and the best way to do that is through the Mount Airy website, and the information will be there on the website.
Yep, that'd be great.
Okay?
Thank you.
Thank you. Does anybody have any other questions? Seeing none, do I hear a motion?
I'll go ahead and move because we have to get the process underway to have more clarity. So I'll recommend approval of the amended site plan for Lot 7A of Twin Ridge Professional Park, Section 2.
Second.
I'll second.
It's been moved and seconded that we follow the staff recommendation of approval of the amended site plan.
It's an amended plat.
Amended
Site
site plan, it says here.
Plat plan. Yeah, plat plan.
Yeah, it's inaccurate.
Let me start over. It's been moved and seconded that the commission follow the staff recommendation approval of the amended plat plan for Lot 7A of the Twin Ridge Professional Park. All those in favor of the recommendation signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed, same sign. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4 yeses and 1 no.
I apologize, Roxanne.
Our next item.
Who denied the,
Councilman. Thank you, Ron. Before we get to the next item, I'd like to remind the residents that there's 2 things that need to happen as far as when someone comes, for instance, this notice came to us. The first thing is that the staff posts the property, and it has to be 15 days before, at least 15 days before the hearing. That posting does not mean we put it on Facebook. It's physically putting a yellow sign in the yard to say that it's going to happen. Also, those residents or property owners that are adjacent to that property are also notified via a letter or postcard. So it's important, if you see things starting to happen or you're wondering about what's going on, if you're not sure, you can always call Town Hall and ask for John Breeding, and he will give you the information. But it's very important that once the process starts, that you can either see us, you can always listen to it on Facebook because we stream it live, the meeting's live, or you can look in the on the website to get more information.
hey, Roxanne?
Yes.
So the signage that we put up on the property in our code doesn't really require that. We do that as a courtesy. We don't put it out 15 days in advance. I put it out 7 days in advance. So Monday of last week is when those signs would have went up. And the postcards to the adjoining property owners typically are sent out, again, as a courtesy. It's not a requirement of our code. And to the residents that did come tonight, you can go on our website and also sign up for notifications to the Planning Commission. So when these agendas go out, you automatically get a notification of up and coming events. Is that correct, Tom? Roxanne's looking at you for guidance.
Yes, that's correct. There's nothing in our code that requires the posting of properties in these circumstances. We do it. It's a good idea, and maybe somebody should suggest that it be a part of our
I
code.
think it should be. Should be at least 15 days. I would like to see it at 15 days.
Don't worry, Roxanne, it's getting written down and will be suggested somehow, probably in November.
The next is the introduction and recommendations to 1010 South Main Street. This is the property, if you don't know, where the old Chevrolet dealership was. If you've been around that long, you would know what that means. This is requesting a density of the two parcels along South Main Street, and I understand that there has been some issues, so he's not presenting this evening.
He's unable to be here this evening.
Does that mean we're not
Not,
discussing
we're
it?
just, you can discuss it. We're basically forwarding to the Board of Appeals, because they're the ones that
Right.
recommend the density.
So really, there's nothing,
It's
right.
just for you guys to make a recommendation to forward it to the Board of Appeals.
okay.
If you want to discuss it, you can. I mean, there's nothing that says you can't. Or if any questions for me, I can answer them.
Right now, they're building two, right?
I'm sorry?
Right now, they're building two houses. Is that same property? Or they're
Currently,
not?
there's nothing being built
Okay, it's just still behind
behind the wooden wall.
and so we don't,
What he's proposing currently, the zoning is RE,
right,
which would allow for a 3.75 units or total over the whole thing. It's 1.7.
Greater density.
He's asking for half a percent more, or half a unit extra per acre. So right now, it's 1.75 per acre. He has 2.2 acres, is in 3.75 units per acre, or for the combined lot. So what he's asking for ultimately is to increase his density from 3.75 to 5. Very similar to Pine Grove subdivision that's up there.
yeah. And I suppose you don't know if these would be like townhouse or
So
something like
single
that.
5
family.
single-family homes is what he's
Do you have a
presenting.
sense of the square footage?
Total square footage, I didn't get that, but he's gonna have to meet all the setback requirements for that zone. Again, if he has to request a variance or a reduction in something, he'll have to come in front of the planning and then potentially Board of Appeals. But I feel like they're gonna complement, again, as I said in the report, this property owner has come in multiple times for different scenarios that, out of the 3 that I've seen, this is the best and complements the neighborhood the best, and gets rid of an eyesore that could
I mean, I
remain.
would support it, especially if it were smaller, single-family homes. Because that's what we need is smaller, a little bit more affordable housing. And it is residential rather than business, rather than commercial, like, and it's horrible what's there now. So I mean, if we were making a
Right.
recommendation, I would be in favor of it.
I also want,
Wish it could have happened sooner.
when this property, when he was trying to do when Mr. Malcolm was trying to do something earlier, the Maryland MDE came in to check, because it was a car dealership, to check, to see if the tanks, number one, were removed, and if there had been any leaching. I know that they said there was some, but they weren't really sure. But keep your eye on this, because in looking up things, this might qualify for what's known as a Brownfield Grant, which has many different uses. Number one, you can get the grant to remove tanks if they're there, to take care of whatever contaminants are there. And I think this is a good example of something, and I know that Dave Warrington has knowledge also of Brownfield grants. And I also think that the cold storage would also qualify for one of those Brownfield grants. I don't know that he's ready for one of those right now. All I can tell you is that the grants for 2022 have to be in by December, into the Maryland MDE by December 1st. But, I'm sure this will still be going on, so it's a possibility that he could get a grant for 2023.
I'll let him know that.
And given the history of the property, it would be smart to request, that extra confirmation.
Yeah, they said that they detected small amounts, but they didn't really do a big-time test. And I'm not so sure that the Brownfield Grant doesn't allow that. Is one of the things that you can do with the Brownfield Grant, is to have a much more intense testing of the site. I know that MDE and the planning are real big on Brownfield Grants. There's many of them here in the state. They're trying to get as many of them as possible to use the grant. Okay, next.
So can I get a recommendation
Yeah.
that I can push to the Board of Appeals? Like, is it everybody's in favor, or?
Is everyone in favor of sending this to the Board of Appeals?
Well, it's going there anyway.
Yes.
Right, so,
Recommendation from,
yes, I'm giving you a recommendation, favorable recommendation to send it to Board of Appeals.
Absolutely.
We won't have to worry about it next month.
all right, thank you.
Okay, so we don't need a motion.
I don't think so, because it's still good. It's the motion to forward to
Board
Board
of-
of
Yeah,
Appeals.
it's fine.
Do we need a motion? Yes.
Yes. Everything needs a motion. Do I hear a motion, Leslie? Yeah. Leslie?
I move that the Planning Commission make a favorable recommendation to the Board of Appeals to allow the lot over the two parcels with the following conditions: that the single-family houses must match the existing neighborhood and meet all bulk requirements of this zone. Open space and stormwater management must be provided on site. Two houses along Main Street must face Main Street.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
It's been moved and seconded that the Planning Commission forward this request to the Board of Appeals with a favorable recommendation with the following conditions. Number one, that the single-family houses must match the existing neighborhood and meet all the bulk requirements of this zone. Number two, open space and stormwater management must be provided on the site. And number three, the two houses along Main Street must face Main Street. All those in favor of the recommendation signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Okay, motion carries. Set the date.
5-6 years. Taken together.
The next, as you see, was to be the joint annexation resolution 2021-44, the regular property located on Prospect Road. It was to be an introduction, discussion, and possible recommendation to the town council. This has been postponed until November at our next meeting, which is November 29th, 2021 at 7 p.m. We have the petition for annexation and zoning here in front of you. I don't know if you have any questions. Ron, are you involved in the Wrigley property?
Peripherally, yes.
Okay.
I think I can maybe answer some of them, but I think it was the attorney asked for it to be postponed until November.
Yes. There was some question about notification, so in discussing this afternoon with John, we felt it was fair to the property owner that we postpone it so that we can have everybody here. I will say that, Tom, you had said that the annexation agreement is not totally done per se, and that there's needs a lot of tweaking, and they wanted to hear what the Planning Commission, the recommendations the Planning Commission might have. So hold on to this, and you can read it and take notes for the recommendations that you might have for November. Are there any comments, questions? Okay. This also is on the Frederick County side, so it would give us a buffer, a little bit, kind of, sort of. All right, the next item, we had asked John, Mr. Breeding, to find someone who could talk to us about 5G coming to the town of Mount Airy. We did have a discussion about it, and I'm going to yield to you, John, to...
Sure. So I did reach out, and we had a gentleman from Verizon Wireless, Representative Yanil Cucker, I think is how you enunciate it. Hopefully I didn't murder that. I did meet with him last week, and along with engineering, the town of Mount Airy's engineering staff as well. And it looks like, from what I was getting from him, so initially he said he could come and present here. But then as it got closer and I met with him, his manager basically said, there's no sense talking to Mount Airy currently. And I asked him, well, that's interesting, but why is 5G coming to Mount Airy? And his basic answer was that we don't have enough population to support small cell towers within the town of Mount Airy. You need a 20,000 population before they'll even start thinking about it. We're not even a blip on their radar for 5G potentially. They did say we might get 5G, but they call it a C-band, and it would be on mounted on our existing micro cell towers. So our existing towers they have an antenna that's called C-band, which would allow for 5G, but not into the small cell structures. So again, I have a presentation he forwarded to me, and we can run through it if you want. But again, he basically said that we're not even a blip.
Well, if they're not going to let us have the authentic thing, I want to know in some detail, what does 5C offer? How close is it?
C-band.
C-band.
It's called C-band.
It's called C-band. It's not 5C, it's just C-band.
That's what he told me. Again, I didn't have a chance to research it, but it is what he was, because they call 5G is basically ultra high band cell tower, or signal is ultra high band. And so C-band, from my understanding, again, I'm not a Verizon technician, it's basically something that they can mount on our current towers to basically an upgraded antenna for the current 4G or maybe 5G transmission. But it's still going to be in a micro towers, or our water towers, the tower at 7 East Ridgeville, anything like that. So they'll be able to upgrade those antennas possibly to be maybe it's a 4G C-span antenna. Again, I'm not a Verizon technician.
Sure.
So basically, he said he would get back to me if something were to come up again, where they were looking.
We're not going to snap our fingers and have 20,000 people in the town of Mount Airy. I mean, that's not going to happen.
Exactly. But, maybe technology changes in the next 3 to 5 years and prices come down, or they saturate the market in the other areas, and then they start to want to talk to us. I don't know. But I still think we should still get our infrastructure and our design guidelines in play, and we can modify those later. I mean, again, this was sort of brought on by Commissioner Member Munder, or Council Member Munder. I think, didn't you submit the initial 5G small cell? Who was?
I think Councilman President Acting Mayor Poyer started it several years ago, then it
Okay.
got kind of just pushed to the back burner, and then it came back up again.
Okay.
If I recollect, but I'm at it now. It's potential. It'll probably be delayed again at the November meeting, because I'm still working on the ordinance and getting it updated and things of that. And now feel like a little bit safer now, to not as rushed to do it and get the guidelines. But I'll agree with Bill to get everything in place to.
I think it's important for us to approach this strategically.
Yeah.
Okay, obviously, this technology continues to develop.
Yeah,
We're being manipulated by, well, they're attempting to, a monopoly. But we need to know what is the direction and what is the pace of this technological development. And other communities that are about our size, you know, that have some capability as well, and they're strategically located. If we could find any of them that are also thinking about this
yeah.
and planning for this, what steps are they taking? You know, is there some sense of what the timing might be? You know, and if so, does it make sense to start investment
Yeah.
in some of the upgrade of our infrastructure?
Yeah, well, we have a Frederick County MML meeting on Thursday, so if I remember, I'll mention it. It's just see if any of the smaller municipalities there have 5G. I did receive other town ordinances from MML regarding 5G. I think Emmitsburg was one of them, and I could go back and see if there's any other Frederick County or local ones. There was a couple Carroll County ones.
Well, I think
too.
that would be useful if we could identify some other communities and start a dialogue with them.
And remember, the 10,000 is in our immediate town. So, you know, if it's, I mean,
Retail
they don't,
trading areas,
they don't, like,
Yeah.
when it comes to distribution of 5G towers, I think they would use more of like a zip code than like a voting district. You know what I mean? So I'm not sure if our,
Well, if it's a zip code.
well, that's what I'm saying. So when we say how many people are in our town, there's 10,000 that get a water bill, but that's not how many people would use 5G.
My question, in the 21771 zip code, and the new census figures are out, I don't have them with me. What is it, that's more than 20,000.
It's 20 to 25.
I have a feeling they're using the same principle the cable companies use. It's density. It doesn't really matter the population of the area. It's the density of the population that matters. Because if a 5G is only good for 200 feet or whatever the distance is, but and if every house is 1,000 feet apart, I have to be putting up a lot of cell towers.
Well, they're all single-family homes instead of a multi-level
Right.
Yeah.
condominium that, you know, supports a denser population.
And are they only counting houses and not businesses that would benefit from that?
I'm sorry again?
Are they only counting the houses and not the businesses that we have here?
Yeah, he gave them a number and they just gave him an answer based on our
Right,
population.
right.
Yeah, they didn't come out and like assess
Well-
the area.
They're looking for low-hanging fruit,
Yes.
that's all.
Tom, did you have something to add too? It seemed like you were going to say something, but maybe not.
No, I think the most critical thing to remember is that you're going, the town, so when I say you, the town, will want to have something in place, a set of procedure and restrictions before that first application comes, because if you don't have it by the time the first application comes, it's too late to impose those restrictions.
Right.
So,
So this would be a very appropriate topic, Carl, for MML.
Yeah. And see who in Frederick County at least has it or what they anticipate that time frame.
For their recommendation.
Yeah.
Or like Tom was saying, basically, you know, we're not a blip on the radar. Well, now's when we should act and get
Yeah.
it in play.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So is this the information package that was sent to you by Verizon?
This is the PDF that he presented to me and the engineering staff.
Well, I'd like to see it.
Okay.
Is that okay?
Can you advance it, Deb, please? So we're going to run through it real quick here, and I apologize, it's not in a PowerPoint presentation, but,
We don't need to lower.
excuse me.
No, there we go.
So again, the.
Thank you, Larry. You read our minds.
Oh, a little spooky Halloween, actually.
So again, so we can go to the next slide. Like I say, a lot of this, and I did see something on the television this morning, that they were stating that the need for internet is going to times by 7 from what it is today within the next 3 years. So, I mean, I think, like you're saying, the possibility of 5G is imminent, right? But is it going to be 5 years, 3 years, 2 years, 10 years? You know, and what technology might they have that might be better than 5G at that point in time as well? So again, this is sort of talking about the major needs, so increased emergency calls, the millennials use a lot of data, and each of the different households are, connected more. You have smart televisions, you have smart stoves, smart microwaves, smart coffee makers. I mean, the demand for Wi-Fi and connectability is growing exponentially. So next slide. So and this sort of represents sort of what I was talking about. The demand is just compounding on top of each and everything. Next slide. And again, it also talks about a superhighway, right? I mean, information is basically like a superhighway. And if you have, a superhighway that doesn't have any exit ramps, your data gets clogged. So by having a small G cell tower every 100, 200, 300, 400 feet, it allows for that traffic that's coming in to exit the pathway, which allows for higher speeds. So next slide. And this is sort of a demonstration of what's out there, right? So this was the steps. I think it doesn't have dates there, but the infancy of networking, from baby to running to skateboarding to bicycling to doing 100 mile an hour. So it sort of does have a timeline there. For 2019, we got 5G, and again, so here's the micro cell towers that exist, which sort of shows the blue clouds above. That's where the signals are sort of emanating from. And again, the small cells would be the red symbols. So the connectivity is much closer to each of the different cell towers and a smaller umbrella of connectivity. So next slide. And this is sort of a representative of what a current 5G antenna would look like in relationship to a normal street sign for a tow zone or a no parking zone. And again, it goes into showing, that there are shorter range, the improving technologies changed rapidly. It's kind of like going from an 8-track tape to 8-track player to an MP3 player. Or so next slide. Let's see. Next slide. So again, it comes into, they're going to look at our town. If it does come to the town, they're going to look at the town in a whole. And I think still doing an RF footprint of our current demands or current signals that are already out there would help determine where our 5G towers might end up being placed. I mean, with the current micro towers, it might be more in Nottingham where a 5G cell tower might be more applicable than, say, downtown Main Street. But next slide. Next slide. So again, ultimately, the smaller cell towers will accelerate the 4G, the LTE, and the 5G. I mean, I've talked to some local people, and they've actually, had 5G on their current phone. If your current phone will even accept 5G, I mean, I think you have to be at the 12, I think, currently to actually receive a 5G signal. And I think even in this area, we might be getting people that are getting 5G signal. So it makes me wonder if they haven't already changed some of the antennas on our microstructures to accommodate 5G. So they aren't going to come to us just to upgrade their existing structures or existing equipment on an existing structure. They would just go in and put the new antenna to support the 5G. Next slide. And here's some examples of different small cell towers. And I think we had some of those inside the small cell manual that I submitted. again, these are different cabinetry. Now it says no equipment cabinet, but it still has a small cell tower antenna on the top. So it would lead me to believe that the Syracuse, New York actually has a concealed supply cabinet or equipment cabinet. It must be buried under the ground, which is what I think we should be making sure we're requiring as part of our small cell 5G towers if we do allow them to come into, or whenever they do come into town. Next slide. And here's a detail sort of showing the two different types of antennas. Again, the large antenna on top is for the 4G, and actually the panels beneath that are the antenna type 2 is the 5G. And again, they show the equipment cabinet below, so all the electric meter, all the equipment to actually support the 5 and 4G would be concealed, either in the ground or beneath the pole. Next slide. And here's some other examples of different 5Gs and 4G, 5G combination. Next slide. Same thing, 4G, 5G, and again, this is in Rockville. And again, you can see the equipment is sort of hidden. Instead of the giant, you can look at the 5G only. You can see the electric meter, and some of the equipment boxes are very accessible and just an eyesore. Where if you look at the 4G, 5G combo, they're concealed in the base of the unit, or possibly in a vault locker underneath the concrete slab. Next slide. And again, this gets back down to where they can put them within the right of way. And again, with the legislation that's out there, we need to get our design guidelines in place so that when they even try to put it in the right of way, that we have some control over it before it overtakes the town. Next slide. And this goes back into what kind of a service fee the town could potentially add to the different types of towers being installed in the town. Next slide. And this really gets down to we have a certain time factor. We have to approve permits, et cetera, or, this shot clock, they call it. We could potentially face fines and, litigation if it got down to it, if we don't allow the process to move forward. Next slide. And again, it'd been much nicer to have the Verizon technician going through this than I. So this is basically sort of applying our ordinance. Again, these are just the first steps. Again, permit only, Department of Public Works. I'm not sure what the BP or the EP is, but if anybody knows, please speak up. And again, the zoning policies with conditions and standards, building, thank you, Deborah, building permit and electrical permits. And next slide. And again, it gets back to the franchisee agreements, the master license agreements, and the right-of-way design guidelines revisions. So again, I think still working diligently on our ordinance and diligently on our guidelines is critical, as we're still not even on the radar. But that could happen in 18 months. Yeah, Bill.
John, I got a question.
Hope I can answer it.
We've had a discussion off and on for several years about the possibility of moving utility lines from on the street to rear easement, or at least getting that visualness.
You're talking about in the downtown zone.
In the downtown zone in particular. I'm wondering the extent to which, if that's one long-term goal of a community, we have any latitude to negotiate that or pursue that, or at least have a healthy discussion whomever we're going to be working with. It sounds like our neck of the woods, it's going to be Verizon. But there's, we know we have some issues with Main Street. And if we could have less utility lines directly on the street, and we could have some options to move it, especially with microwave, and not have to have as much physical lineage, then so much the better. I'd love to see that investigated.
I really doubt Verizon's going to be looking to remove those wires, because again,
I do too, but
Power-
that's
power
not the
wires.
direction I'd like to see it go.
Well, wouldn't we also have to be talking to Potomac Edison? I mean, that's the first person we talk to. And I don't think they want to move to the rear.
Nope.
Remember, there has to be, I mean, Verizon's a company. They sell stuff,
Right,
so they don't want
Right.
to move your poles.
no,
It's just to move them. So there has to be, something has to be in it for them. So, if their reception could be improved, or they can put more, or they can, get a business to buy their, top of the line speed package or something. Like they have to have reasons. So I don't know how that would work out. It's going to have to be intertwined, because these things don't power by sunlight, so they need energy. So they will tap into the electrical infrastructure. They may freak out when they see where our poles are, because they'll be like, I don't know, maybe that's not good for what they want to do.
Right.
So I don't know what, we'd have to see what they think about that. There may be safety issues, like having a pole on a sidewalk with a microwave cabinet. I don't know. I don't know if there's no space. It'd be worse moving it back closer to someone's house. I don't know. But we'd have to have those discussions. But I think the bigger part is what Tom was saying about making sure that we stay on it. I mean, it actually sounds like it buys us some time to figure some things out if they're not jumping down onto the, onto the road here next week trying to put these towers up, because I can imagine that there's some places where they would want to do that and get their product in place so that they could sell stuff. We don't have that problem, but at the same time, this is one of those things that's going to happen in the town that's not going to improve the appearance, but it's going to be an amenity that is absolutely going to make us better. And so this, you talk about people teleworking, 83% of, they said millennials choose where they live based on their cell towers. That's a real thing. I mean, I've talked to them, that's what they say. If you don't have a cell signal, they don't live where that is. So this is important for our future. And yes, 5G towers don't make anything look prettier, but we can at least get it as less ugly as possible.
yes. Actually, that's the first person, when you take someone into a house to look at a house, their first question is, is it Verizon, what do you have here? I'm teleworking, is it hard, what type of service is there?
next slide.
Okay.
Again, those are some of their do's and don'ts. Again, I mean, I can make this PDF slideshow available for anybody. You just have to reach out and ask me. I'll send it to you, Carl, tomorrow.
Please.
The next slide. Again,
Aesthetics and
Some
health.
health.
Don't do that.
Oh, brother.
so again, this is one of my concerns. It's like, this is Verizon's point of view.
Right,
This isn't their point of
exactly.
view. It isn't my point of view. I'm concerned about health issues for the town. I'm concerned about our RF signal that currently exists,
Right.
that we don't even see that blue umbrella above everything, right? It's like it's
Exactly.
there. People don't think about it. It's like,
I think this is for the technician too. When he talks, he's like, don't go into the aesthetics.
Right, don't undermine my abilities to put my
Microwave
antenna up,
cell,
right?
yeah,
Exactly.
Exposure, like, please.
Again, I mean, it's very political from his perspective.
Yeah.
So next slide. I don't know how many more slides we have.
Primary targets, there you go.
Okay. Again, this is sort of what their primary target. And again, I wonder if their 5G antenna might not work with the electrical infrastructure we have. It might create disturbance and interference because if you look at all their examples, they don't have a normal telephone pole that has a whole bunch of wires running past it.
Exactly.
So it might not be advantageous to even think about doing it here. Now, out in the communities where it has, everything's underground, they can attach to an existing lamp pole inside the right-of-way, it might be different. But I think we need to either look at as part of our guidelines, look at our existing communities, what kind of pole do we have? If they're going to upgrade those poles, how do we allow them to upgrade that pole to still integrate their antennas, but still aesthetically make it look like everything else? And it's a challenge, and it's going to be a challenge. So next slide. Next slide. I mean, again, a lot of this is just, sort of what they're targeting for, so. Next slide. And again, I know that they're, what's that again?
No, I'm just saying.
Next slide. And again, I think, again, like we're all considering, we should be, focusing on our guidelines and our ordinance. That's good. If we can get the lights back on.
Thank you.
Yep. So that concludes our presentation.
Very good.
All right, can you turn the lights back on,
Thank you.
please? I know, but
John, you did a wonderful job, okay?
Thank you.
no worries.
So I think then at our next meeting, we should start talking about the design guidelines, which you had given us some information on. So I think we need to start talking about the design guidelines. I think this puts the ordinance on hold until we get the design guidelines straight, kind of finalized.
I think they could run in conjunction with each other. I think the big question is, which one is going to be the guiding factor? Is it the design guidelines, or is it the ordinance? Or does the ordinance refer back to the guidelines, or the guidelines back to the ordinance? I guess and that's where I'm.
So Carl, your inquiry of MML might be to ask those questions.
Yeah.
Which communities, have an ordinance or are working on one and
It's
think they can design guidelines.
And I know you said, Carl, that you wanted the design guidelines within the ordinance.
Or vice versa.
I tend to not agree with that. I think that the ordinance should reference the design guidelines,
Yeah.
but I don't think that they should be part of the ordinance.
No, I get,
You have to change them. right?
Because, if you have to change them, then we got to do a text amendment, we got to do the ordinance over. So I think that we,
yeah.
you can, the ordinance is, I think, we sent with our approval a recommendation, a positive recommendation, so I don't see where, correct me if I'm wrong, Tom, they could vote on it in the November meeting.
In theory, yes.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, the ordinance should point to guidelines, because guidelines should be adaptive to what's going on. If we make up guidelines, design guidelines, they could change easily. Midstream, we're basing those guidelines off of what we know. I don't think we don't know what we don't know. And we'll try to get it as right as we can with those design guidelines, but if you have an ordinance with design guidelines built into it, then you're going to have to make some big ordinance changes, which are going to be a
Well,
big
the
problem.
ordinance should incorporate by reference design guidelines and indicate that they, if they
Yeah, that's-
change, then they change. But I think, and I can't remember if we have it like that already, but, you know, I think that the guidelines should be incorporated in order to actually say we have these, we don't just have an ordinance, we have requirements of what you can and cannot do, if you want to put your,
One of the
5G.
things, sorry, Leslie, that's one of the
I'm
things.
done.
No, but that's one of the things I'm working on, as I've indicated before. It was trying to decide which way you want is guidelines or ordinance.
The ordinance
I've had
controls.
indicated before that I would prefer the guidelines to be the rule of the land, or whatever you want to say it around here, and just have the ordinance reference the guidelines for, as the reasons as Commission Member Sergio has pointed out, that they do change, and I don't want to, every time there's a change, I don't want the code to change.
right.
So
But
it's
the
easier to do the
ordinance is the
guidelines.
ordinance. So the ordinance is the law and that controls.
Yeah,
And so that has to be first.
so it's something that could just be as easily, I mean, we could put the ordinance on hold until the guidelines and just do the well, if we reference in the ordinance, see the guidelines for the stuff, and there's no guidelines yet, then it's almost like not having a code.
Well,
Right, well, I mean.
I mean, you guys can talk about that.
There should be a decent swag taken at the guidelines when you reference them in an ordinance.
Yeah, oh, yeah.
They don't have to be perfect, but there should be something to
Yeah.
reference.
Tom has a legal position, I think,
Yeah.
right?
Just my recollection is that the reason you recommended the ordinance as it's currently drafted is to perhaps get something in place.
Right.
We get an application, and then from there, maybe you simplify it. Maybe the ordinance simply sets forth what the process is, clarifies it's basically a site plan review by the planning commission, subject to the guidelines that the planning commission may adopt and amend from time to time, or something to that effect.
Absolutely.
Well, because again, ultimately Verizon might say that we're not a blip on their radar, but maybe they look at the numbers and they go, well, maybe let's look at the 21771 zip code. And they go, wait, there's a blip, you know, so, I mean, it could change.
Yeah.
Good.
You never know.
Could come down 70 and all of a sudden we have it on 70 and they want it in here.
Right.
Did they give any thought to any of the federal workers that we have in town that are working from home? Does that matter if they're a federal contractor?
No.
Wouldn't matter.
Numbers.
I don't think so.
Numbers, darn it.
Low hanging fruit.
Low hanging fruit.
You want a 5G antenna in front of your house, is that what you said? You want a 5G antenna in front of your house?
Yeah.
I've got Verizon in front of my house.
It's not whether it'll ever happen, it's whether or not it happens first. That's the thing, they have to prioritize, okay? So it's like, they have to put it where the need is first, and they prioritize. And it's not like Mount Airy will never have 5G, it's just that it won't have 5G first. Yeah. I mean, you're in competition with Rockville and Germantown, and, I mean, Frederick, Westminster, I mean, they got projects going, right? So John used the word blip, but yeah, when you're figuring out who needs 5G first, downtown Frederick or Mount Airy.
Right. They've got to get all that done first.
John and I will talk over the next couple weeks and work out the details on the guidelines and the code here, changes.
So do you want the guidelines back in front of you in November? Is that what you're saying? Because that's what I thought I heard somebody say. Of revised guidelines for January or,
I'm yielding to the rest of the commission. When do you want to see, when do you feel that we need to discuss these guidelines?
I think we should start on them, only because it's going to take a while. They're never going to be perfect.
Yeah.
So we might as well work on them, get them to a state that's respectable, and be able to do something with them, and then plan on modifying them in the future.
But maybe we should wait a little bit because we have the not the annexation, the zoning stuff to review next month and January. And I don't know what else we have. But in fact, if you could give us, I was going to ask that anyway, a summary of who's coming when, because I don't remember
I
that.
think I think what we were, it's coming up in the discussion, so we'll hold off on the design
We
guidelines.
are discussing.
Remember, we had held off on some of the planning or scheduling some of the requests because we found when we were doing this is that we probably need to look at the neighborhood professional
We're doing
district.
that in November
So
at our workshop.
we're going to do that in November in our workshop. And we do have 1 or 2 people coming in November for rezoning requests.
Well, that's my
At the
question, I
meeting.
guess.
Yeah.
So again, I wrote down the dates, I don't have it in front of me here for what we discussed at the last work session, for when we're gonna bring those
Had
certain
like
ones.
2, you had Park Avenue.
We had Park Avenue, there were 2 that
Someone
didn't.
else coming in.
Yeah, there were 2 that weren't affected by the neighborhood professional. So we decided we were gonna do those 2 first.
Correct.
I know
so
it was Park. I forget
was
the
Park
address,
and-
but Park Avenue and
20 Park Avenue and.
Was it Main Street?
806.
Main Street?
Again, I'll have to look, I don't have it in front of me, and I don't wanna speculate on a date
Okay.
or which ones we're
What's our
talking about.
December, our late, what does our December meeting look like? Because.
We don't meet in December.
At all, right? We're
Right.
not gonna try to squeeze it like
No,
before or anything?
No, we're not gonna, no.
Okay.
now we might have a workshop there.
We'll have a workshop at the beginning of
Workshop, yeah.
December, but we will not have a meeting because it's
Right.
the end of December. So we
Gotcha.
don't.
And we can't discuss rezonings at a workshop, right, because it's not a public comment.
Right,
center,
because
so-
you don't vote at workshops. They have to come here.
Right, just other code things.
Right.
That we want to
Right.
fix.
But
All
we
right,
can
so
still
we
talk
have,
about-
so we do have 2 in November.
In November?
November.
Yes.
I know one is 806 Park Avenue, but I don't remember.
Would you
which
please
one.
look at the next one? Also, in November, believe it or not, is elections.
All right, oh, you're saying, okay, for a council member?
Yes.
But that's like the 4th or something, right?
What's,
No, no,
No,
no,
no,
she's
no,
talking about
no.
elections here.
Elections
Oh,
for the
Chairperson.
chair,
Oh,
vice chair. So that'll be at our November 29th meeting.
Now, is November 4th our work session?
Yes.
Yes, and December 9th, I think, is the one for,
Are we meeting at 6 on the 4th?
Yes.
6 p.m.
bless you.
Bless you.
You, Tom?
December, it would be the 2nd.
We have a planning commission meeting on the 29th, which is in the same week as the 2nd.
So do we want to do it on the 9th?
Yeah, it shows right down here, I think. We don't have it on here, but anyway. Not on here, but the next master plan work session in December will be on the 9th.
Okay.
Unless we want to turn that into, I mean, we could still turn that into a planning commission meeting instead of a work session and, still have an extra month to, instead of, I feel like that might be a better use of time, but that's really up to you guys.
how much time do you need to advertise again?
Well, and again, for the rezoning requests, I don't think we could do that on the December meeting. Because in the November meeting, like right now, we should be sending out a joining property owner list.
Okay, well, then it would
If we're
probably,
making
just-
it
I
15
I
days,
think, let's leave it as a workshop.
yeah.
Okay. The 15-day rule hasn't gone into effect yet. But I do want to, for a rezoning request, I do want to sign the properties and try to get them done this week or next week to get them posted, get the adjoining property owners
Yeah.
researched.
And I know it might not be an ordinance, but I know that we have tried in the past to notify people at least 15 days ahead of time.
Are you talking about like advertising in the paper, or are you talking about?
I'm talking about the
Website.
posting of the property and the sending out of the letters or postcards. I know that we tried, in the past, we have done that.
I mean, there's, well,
For certain things, we do 15 days,
like
but,
hearings, certainly.
right, for hearings but I mean, the problem is that we can do that. We can do the 15 days. I think when it's put out a week before, I think it's more apt that people show up to the meeting than if it's 2 weeks out, or maybe gives them more time to make arrangements with
Okay.
babysitters or whatever, I don't know.
And also, remember, it's not a requirement to post it. So you're talking about a couple of things here. You're talking about making it a requirement, and you're talking about making the requirement 15 days. So there's two things here. I don't know what Carl's going to take back to, you know, the council, but there's two things. One, it's right now not a requirement. So,
Correct.
like, you're changing the date of something that's not required. So I would probably make it required, and then I would make it 15 days if that's what you want. But if you just make it 15 days and it's not required, then it might as well be 1 day or no days.
Right. And again, it's one of those things that when you have, you know, one person doing those signs and everything else, it becomes where mistakes are made. Maybe you put a postcard with 7:30 instead of 7 because whatever, trying to rush out and do whatever. But anyway, let's move on to the next item.
Okay, the next is reports and other business, so next is a council liaison report.
Well, for the most part, you do have my report in your packet, so I will not go over what I included in that report. I just have one other thing to add to this, that I attended the Carroll County Commissioner meeting, I believe it was September 28th, for the Harrison LaShare property. It was agreed at that time to hold a community meeting down here in the town of Mount Airy related to the proposals that are before the Carroll County Commissioners for the Harrison LaShare property. That meeting has been tentatively scheduled for November, let me get the date here, I can't remember if it's the 23rd or 28th. November 23rd, Tuesday, November 23rd. It's tentatively scheduled. The time is still being worked out, but it will probably be a daytime meeting
It'll definitely
in
be.
here at Town Hall. Is the current location. That may change too, depending on the anticipated crowd size. But as of now, the meeting for the community meeting for the Mount Airy that will be held jointly with the town council and the Carroll County Commissioners is Tuesday, November 23rd at 10.
I know that we're indirectly involved, not directly involved, but Carl, the 23rd is 2 days before Thanksgiving. I do not think that that is a viable time for the public to be able to come and speak.
It was at the,
And I thought that they were going back and forth. I mean, that's what Dave told me today.
okay.
He did not have, he said he did not have anything set. As soon as he did, he would let me know.
The last I heard was the 23rd as of last week.
But,
So,
well, this was today, so
okay. I'll agree with you on the date or the day.
well, it's gonna be during the day.
Yeah.
Because the commissioners don't do anything
Yeah.
at night.
Well, let's just say the selection of the Tuesday before Thanksgiving.
That's a little
I don't
much.
agree
That's a little
with.
much. I'm sorry, that's a little much.
I'd be thankful that they're actually coming down
Down
here.
here,
and
yeah.
not
Oh, this is,
go to the
yes,
commission office.
Yes.
Reasonable, I mean.
It's really them that are setting the date, so I'm thankful that they even allowed this to happen down.
and they're
down
all
here.
coming,
As far as I
correct?
know, they're coming. That's part of the scheduling.
right, and.
Concerns.
And they have requested all the town council to be there as
Yes.
well.
So Carl, you said that it was to discuss the two proposals before the county commission. So that's it, not whether the town is going to renegotiate.
No. it's
Now,
just-
there is no annexation discussion, to my knowledge, part of that agenda.
That's why I'm saying it's related to the town, but we're not directly affected by it right now.
I mean,
We're
Yeah.
affected, definitely.
if people come out and say they are in favor of it, of annexation by the town, that might, help us in the long run to have it annexed or have them choose to annex it in.
I'm trying to think of logistics currently, just thinking if we have council members up here, where do the commissioners sit, where does the
There's no
citizens
way,
sit?
there's no way that it can be held here.
That's what I said, maybe the community
way.
room over at the health center or something else, but they probably do, but they do probably require, since it's a county, more media access capability and what the
Well,
activities building would,
that's best here.
yeah, would allow. I'm not sure the community room at the health center,
mean,
what their
CMC
capability is.
My understanding, CMC can remotely broadcast from the community center or the health center. So,
Yeah.
I mean, they've done it before. They did it with the charrette for the
Okay.
downtown vision plan, out at the
can
activities
do that.
facilities. So
It's gonna have
it's
to
just
talk
they
to
need
them early.
notice
Yeah.
to make sure that they can correctly have proper staff, equipment, et cetera, available for that.
Personally, I think it would be better done at the community room at the health center, at the health pavilion, than at the activities building. But that's just,
Nobody's asked me, so.
Yeah.
And they won't be
So-
asking Roxanne either.
I'll get with David and try and figure something out or get the information on it.
when you go, okay, so where that is a community room, when you go in, you know where the health pavilion is, where Superfresh is. When you go in, it's the room, it's the first room to
Right.
your right, and we have been there before, and it's an excellent room.
All right, Roxanne.
But what do we?
They were asking where it
No,
was.
I was asking what that venue was, but I was just wondering how we would gain access to it too.
You just,
Well, if it's during the day, it's
yeah,
open.
during the day, I guess you just contact
I'm sure you reserve it.
Frederick County or Carroll County. Yeah, it's whoever has the building. I'm sure we know how to contact them.
Okay,
I have the phone number downstairs for the contact person.
Yeah.
so have we discussed the rezoning request for the different properties around Mount Airy? You don't have it with you here?
These are future items.
Right,
So we're not,
806 Park Avenue and something.
And what, 806 Park, and whichever other one does not need to have the discussion. So we have the work session on the 4th. You can also put a work session down for December the 9th at 6. We have the zoning administrator report. And then we're also going to be discussing, because we made that work session specifically for the master plan, we can discuss the neighborhood professional, Tom, right? Because the master plan is affecting that, what we're doing. Okay, because we have specified that the work sessions are for the master plan, we can still discuss the neighborhood professional district because it is affected by the master plan.
you just can't vote on it.
We can't vote on it, but we can discuss it.
Discuss it, I
We can
guess.
discuss probably any
Just-
zone.
I would just make sure it's on the agenda so that, in advance, so that.
Right.
Well, then I
Okay.
would add the community commercial, because I don't think that ever got voted on in council.
I was thinking that
Yeah, yeah.
20 minutes ago.
I checked the agendas the other day, and I'm like, I don't think they ever voted on that. So we should add that too.
So my concern was, again, and this was my question I had just a second ago. So can we discuss an ordinance change at a work session without the public having any involvement? That was my concern, and that's what I was told no, and then now we're saying yes.
They
Well,
can
you
be
can
here.
Discuss it.
We just can't.
We can't do anything, we can discuss it, and then it
Okay.
would come back up at the next planning meeting, that's when we would vote on it and have the public input.
Which will be January.
Correct.
And also, the community commercial has already been sent to council, just.
Right, so we don't have to.
So that's already been.
We don't have to
discussed.
rediscuss that.
No, but I mean, just if we're discussing zones, it, might come up, but.
Yeah, so
But these are open meetings, so.
Carl, you're
What, who?
looking perplexed.
Well, I'm just trying to figure out, no, if the community commercial needs to be reintroduced
We
or not.
never,
or is it-
never introduced it for.
It was never,
I don't remember what happened to it.
Yeah.
I remember
Yeah, I
it being
can't-
recommended here.
Yeah.
But I'm not sure it ever got put in an ordinance form and introduced by a council person.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can't remember either, so I'm not sure if, I mean, I don't mind reintroducing it if it needs to be, but I just don't want you to start thinking it can appear next meeting
Oh,
or
no.
something.
This is all part of the master plan,
yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
we're still working on
Okay.
it.
stuff.
So do we need to bring that CC back as well with the NP to make sure we're presenting? No, okay.
I'm sorry, it's
Well,
up to you
it's-
all. You don't have to.
It would make sense to, discuss both of them in tandem and to introduce them in tandem.
Yeah,
Yeah, because then Carl can just.
Right.
Both
Yeah.
of them. Okay.
Anybody have anything else? Do I hear a motion for adjournment? Don't need one, but
Do it.
Motion to adjourn.
okay, it's been moved to adjourn. Is there a second?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. We adjourn the meeting. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. We will see you on the 4th of November.
Thank you.